Bukayo Saka, Anthony! Salah, that's beautiful from Aubameyang! Bane! God! There goes Haaland, he's on it.
And how's it going, people? Welcome to this week's edition of The Locker Room right here at Top 6 Fan TV. And it's a full house in here. Fantastic action to go through. Brian there, Liverpool man, you're most welcome. Simon, Arsenal man with some vintage stuff right there, you're most welcome. And David Rito, the man from Old Trafford, Mr. Man United. Very excited with the wins now. And it's fantastic to have you guys here. If you're just joining the show for the first time, feel free to hit the subscribe button. Feel free to hit the like button, leave a comment, and share the link widely and wildly. And we are excited to be back home. And fantastic weekend, gentlemen. And we'll go straight into the action and kick off the review with, where else to start than obviously Mr. Brian's game right there. Fantastic result, 4 leads. No one could have written this one. No one could have predicted that one. But beating Liverpool 2-1 at Anfield. Brian, where do we start from? It's very nice of you to actually come on and give us some insight into Liverpool's problems right now, which I think are temporary, although the guys at Old Trafford are celebrating quite profusely. But Brian, the result, your take on the result, and what went wrong for Liverpool?
A bit of a shocker, to be honest. I'm still trying to understand how it played out, but obviously some things that worrying things that I saw then that I had seen building up to that point, because one, for instance, is that teams do no longer fear Liverpool. They go at them, both whether it's at Anfield or away, it doesn't matter. Teams just go at them. I think Napoli just basically laid out the blueprint by that 4-1 beating of 4-2. Was it 4-1? 4-1, yeah, beating of Liverpool in the first Champions League game. But I think there's a historic context to this. I mean, if you can just peel back a bit, some of the games we played towards those last 2 games in last season were always coming from behind. I noticed the guys were being to take a bit. This thing of saying, let's use the last of the energy to see if we can possibly win the EPL if Man City by some miracle slips up, and then we push Real for the win, right? Champions League.
Yeah.
And none of those two things happened. So mentally, we will say what we want, but definitely it's a burnout. You can't just keep running the same pace. Yeah. And high tempo teams tend to go through that. I noticed, even without digressing, if you look at Conte's teams, Conte's teams don't last that long. He does 2-3 seasons. I don't know if you've had any team that goes beyond 4 seasons with Conte, because of the level of work that he puts in, that the guys do. So Liverpool is a bit of that, but I mean, just having lost those 2 trophies within 7-8 days of each other, that's one factor. The other one, of course, structurally speaking, I think Fabinho is a big worry for me. He's used to the guy used to mop up any stuff that comes in from the opposition. Clearly, he's off pace. There are many ways to look at this, because now, obviously, we were not converting the goals, the chances that we had, and one of those rare things that happens, like it's the time I remember Man City lost to Wolves a couple of seasons ago. Same stuff. Team just waits for that one chance and takes it. So very annoying at 90th minute, but well, c'est la vie. I've seen worse. So yeah.
Brian, they keep talking about there's this theory about Klopp's burnout, right? His teams usually burn out in the 7th year. And unfortunately for you, if history is to repeat itself, we should see Klopp departing at the end of the season. Because it happened in his 7th year at Mainz. He left for Borussia Dortmund, spent 7 years there, of course, had some great success there. And the 7th year was a massive burnout to the extent that he had to leave. And of course, after that, we know he has joined Liverpool, and this is indeed his 7th year. And guess what happened in all those incidences? When he left Mainz, take a wild guess on who took over as coach.
Oh, you're going in that super mode. What's his name?
Take a wild guess.
The Chelsea chap was kicked out. What's his name?
Thomas Tuchel.
Tuchel, yeah.
When he left Dortmund, Tuchel also took over. And guess what? Tuchel has no job at the moment. So I won, Derek. I don't know if you see the pattern here.
I think it's like medium wives tales things. I think sort of oscillating towards that, to be honest.
No, we need to check Tuchel. He must be having a tattoo of number 7 somewhere, like on his back or something.
I don't think he has Pogba's charm. Or even Pogba's charms backfired when the man can't play the World Cup. But anyway, I think my quick comment on that, I think it's pretty much coincidental. The dynamics around that, obviously, at that time, you're looking at Dortmund, that was a feeder club for its rival Bayern Munich. So at that time, it pretty much yielded. Had they sold Lewandowski as well that season, or it was just before the season after that, right? No, actually, Lewandowski had already been sold.
That was 2011.
Lewandowski had already been sold to Bayern. Yeah? So yeah, the different factors, but what maybe is cross-cutting the fact that maybe the difference here is that what is common is that Liverpool, like Dortmund, is up against a machine that has all the money that can improve, tweak a few things here and there, right? They were able to have the luxury. For instance, Man City has the luxury of spending 100 million on a player and let him become just part of the squad, right? We buy it and it's slightly over 70 million, and they're still talking about it up to now. Yeah. So the dynamics are different, but there's some similarity, obviously, because the fact that you go up against some guy who's not about to give up, unless you wait for Guardiola to go, it's a bit of a difficult one. So I think it's somehow this stuff fits into people's minds. But you'd ask yourself, why would he opt to continue with Liverpool? Yeah, towards the end of last season. Maybe it's because but maybe I'm ranting a lot.
You're ranting a lot. I want to hear what Derek has to say about it.
I just think it was a case of, and many people say it's not the case, it's one guy, but I think the Mane Firmino combination, like looking back at your past seasons and your seasons of success, Firmino playing that ghost role of his basically like a number 10 and then setting these two up, who these guys would just switch between being strikers, was so effective. And it was really hard to play against, because at any one point in time, he would be the point man, then he would come back and release these other two. Then you bring in Nunes, and all of a sudden, Nunes is supposed to be your point man. Then Salah is now more like a winger coming in. Yeah. So I think he messed up so much. He didn't cater for the dynamic that had been created by that trio and the impact it had and how the team was really fitting around it. And maybe he thought by just bringing your normal number 9, a guy who finishes and doing all of that, would then change that. But that dynamic was just so rich and so powerful that it's just got missed, to be honest. And then you have no answers for it, because Mane he would go up, he would fall back, he would give and go. And Nunes is not that guy. You understand? So it's like you've lost two aspects of something, and now Firmino is on the bench most of the time. And he doesn't bring that. So when he's on the pitch, what he knows to do is be that player who releases Mane and Salah. Now you're giving him Nunes, and there's just a wrong. There's something that's not working there because you've been doing something so well for so long. All of a sudden, you're now to the bench. Then when you come on, I think your memory structures go back to I have people flying ahead of me, and then you have this big bulky guy that's just, saying give me the ball and he can't finish. So I think there was just a lot that went wrong, and it's not only there, but then also a key thing of aging, players just hitting the wrong form, and that stuff happens. But then when it happens coincidentally at the same time, it's a mess. To be honest, I think that's what's happening with Liverpool. Guys are off form, guys are old, guys are having mental breakdowns. They didn't cater for their playing style before they lost. So it's just a whole mess. So I think I still feel Klopp can turn it around, but I don't think with English football, they have to have the patience for it. But I think he has the ability to build something new. But again, it's going to take time. The only problem is the guys have got used to tasting blood. So I guess it would be a case of, no, we want trophies and what, but you have to give the guy time to build something new again. Because obviously, after this season, you're not going to have Salah. You're going to lose like two more.
Two more players.
Yeah,
obviously, the World Cup is another spanner in the works, Derek. I don't know, Simon, if you've seen, are you afraid of Liverpool?
If there's a team that I'm sure of picking points comfortably from, it's Liverpool. I feel like they're having you've heard of the Benfica curse, where their coach was mistreated and all that. I feel like they're having a little bit of a money curse right now.
There we go. I think we lost Simon. I can hear Brian wanting to retaliate. Brian has also been muted.
I think they're both frozen. I think they're in the same neighborhood.
Same neighborhood, man. They need to get with the Simon. You were saying the Benfica cast. Simon, we'll get you on the next match review. I think let's move on to another very interesting game. Derek, the boys in blue, Chelsea. We don't know what's going on with these guys, but Mr. Graham Potter, after a run of 5 or 6 games without a loss, all of a sudden starts to tinker his team.
Actually, did tinker the team. I didn't really follow this one so much. You tinkered with it?
My friend. Cucurella was playing center back, man. The guy
His team was tinkered.
These guys.
Why?
He was heavily tinkered. Cucurella at center back. He basically played. It was only this Brazilian guy. What's his face?
Was it injuries, Thiago?
No, Thiago actually played quite well. I mean, he cleared like 2 balls off the line, would be goals. But I think besides that, the Chelsea fans that are complaining, they're up in arms, man, that this guy is tinkering the squad too much. He doesn't know his best 11, what's going on. And, can imagine, Roman Abramovich always used to hear the fans complaining, whether they're in East Africa, and the manager would be on the chopping board the following week. But what's your take, Derek?
But I think for Chelsea, I was scared because I think it was a bad decision for Graham Potter to join at the time that he did. Number one, he had just started building a really formidable team in Brighton. And I felt he owed it to himself to see how this season would end and where he would take that team. Or maybe give it another year to then really know that, okay, I'm really good at what I'm doing before jumping into the hot pot at Chelsea. So he jumps in and there's always that beginning I don't know what it is. Remember, even Solskjaer had it. Solskjaer came, we went 8 games. What? There's just something about a new coach that deceives the players in their mind. And all of a sudden, they also believe they're superstars. And then but then after, it's like usually
They
like
call it the new
7
manager
games.
bounce.
Yes, the new manager bounce. After 6 or 7 games, that's when the real test comes. So I just feel like they came in, they had all this vibe of blah blah blah, but then now after this defeat is now when the real test begins. If he bounces back, then probably has some credibility. Another thing is these star mentality players, I think they bully him. I don't think he is the kind of player to stamp his authority in a team, and also having the kind of the owner that Chelsea has right now, Todd Boehly, who wants to. You may find that even that decision to do that was his. You may find that this Graham Potter guy is having to deal with putting his 11 up, and then also Todd Boehly saying, "I want this to go forward." So
it's like, how come I'm not seeing this guy playing? My dime is going.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. So I don't know. I feel like it was a mess, but I think give the guy time, and let's see. I think he still has it. It was a big loss to Brighton, but then also, like I said, I felt he left Brighton at the wrong time because he was building something really, really beautiful. And this coach who was there he's just kept it running. Yeah, and right now I feel it's like, and I feel like he made that mistake because he came here that he had to start from scratch and start rebuilding. Yet he had players who understood his philosophy, who were playing the way he wanted them to play. So I feel like he's starting all over at Chelsea, and it doesn't help that he has lots of big names, old people, and people who don't believe, people who have played with bigger coaches on bigger stages. And it kind of feels like he'll come into the room and he's like, "Okay, guys, what do you think?"
Speaking of old guys, man, Simon, what's your take on Aubameyang's fortunes at Chelsea at the moment? We don't see traction there. We expected a hat trick.
I actually think Aubameyang has run out of form. Right now, the Aubameyang we're seeing, he's unsatisfying. He's not clinical. I feel like something is lacking about him because the Aubameyang of the second half of Barcelona is quite different from the Aubameyang of Chelsea. I'm looking at maybe he doesn't get balls a little bit more, or maybe it's the coach. I don't know, one of the two. But Chelsea, I think for now they should just think of rebuilding as they wait for seasons to progress. Right now, I don't expect a lot from Chelsea, and they're actually not doing so well. But I'm thinking they should give Graham Potter like some bit of years if the new owner is willing to get something good.
I doubt that is going to happen. I mean,
it will be tight.
No, I mean, excuse the pun, but the man is being potted with goals. So left, right, and center. And Brian, I mean, your take on Brighton specifically, and this man in particular, who I've always been fond of from last season. I always saw something special in him. It's no surprise. He's actually, a mainstay in the Belgian national team. Maybe not starting every game, but he's one of those players who always comes off the bench for the Belgian national team, and he will be at the World Cup. Leandro Trossard, of course, Liverpool know about this gentleman. A hat trick.
Thorn
in your flesh.
He tends to bob in and out, and he tends to reserve his special feats for the bigger teams. So that's nothing right up his alley. I think he probably had something or two to show the coach. Just to touch a bit on the Potter thing, I think he has this Brendan Rodgers thing about him, because Brendan Rodgers was gotten from Liverpool because of he had that kind of ethos that is about to pass the ball around and impress and give a shocker to the big teams. I don't think like him, like Brendan Rodgers, he still has to get to that point where he's able to stamp his authority on the team in terms of the big characters that are there and the highly paid chaps that are there. So here he's dealing with chaps who are paid, I don't know, sometimes even a tenth of what some of those guys are paid in I mean, I paid much more than the ones in the Brighton setup. But obviously, Brighton had a point to prove, the fact that they were at home.
Yeah,
made it. But usually Brighton is a bit of an unpredictable entity, because at times when they're at home, they're actually more of a risk to themselves than when they're playing away. They tend to play with more liberty when they're playing away, as Liverpool may have attested. But Trossard is an interesting one. I think pretty much. I don't know. It's not a like for Hazard, but I think we would probably want to say at some point that he probably gives more options to Belgium than Hazard does at the moment, given Hazard's form. So yeah, that's a good one for him. Want to buy him, but yeah, it's a good option. But I don't know if he can play in a bigger team the same level of performance. But yeah, it was quite impressive. And you say, of course, there's some goal line. There could have been like 6 goals, potentially.
My friend, you Liverpool guys know Brighton. You know Brighton, and I'm sure Mr. Potter here
last season and beat them at home. That's why I'm saying that they're a bit of an enigma of sorts.
Indeed. Moving on to, I'm sure what Mr. Derorito will be relieved was a fantastic win for Manchester United, 1-0 there. Rashford with a header, fantastic display from the team. But of course, Mr. David De Gea pulling out one of his epic games to keep United. Give him the 3 points. I mean, David De Gea for Man United over the last 10 years has been what ideally what Peter Cech was for Chelsea. That goalkeeper who saves you 13 points a season. And if they didn't have David De Gea, they would definitely be languishing relegation. Yeah, so Derek, your take.
Language in relegation is a bit dire. I would say that I think the guy, in terms of being a shot stopper, I think the keepers that are better than him. Although with him, you also get the crosses into the box, the silly mistakes. You're gonna have many of those. It's just that, luckily, he doesn't get as punished as much as he makes them. But when it comes to who do you want in goal when someone is taking a color or a shot at goal, you definitely have him within your top 3 options. In terms of the team, I can definitely, like I said earlier on, I can see the process. I am not going to get carried away and say, oh, what this is. But one thing that I appreciate right now is the character within the team. From the back, the fire that you see in the low, Martinez, Varane, that in the defense, and then you have players like Casemiro who just have that same fire. So it's just to say, I think the task would be to then, because I see it in the defense, in these other bits in the striking and the midfield, that character and that fire is still, it's not as much as it is in the defense, and I feel like we're building from the back going forward. And I just feel like this Ronaldo thing, I think it's high time we let that guy go. I only feel like when he's on the pitch, everyone feels they have to give him the ball. And he's not the person he was. And we have just forced our way. Like, he's Ronaldo, but it doesn't help. I just want Martial to come back, because whenever Martial is on, we play our best football. Rashford comes more alive, the rest of the team comes in, people are not scared to pass to each other, but everyone who's on the wing or at the back or just coming in, everyone's looking for Ronaldo when he's on the pitch. They give him the ball and he does squats. So I just feel we're less of a team when he's on, but in terms of just building a team with metal and just a certain identity in terms of how we pass the ball, it's there. We're not yet at the levels of even Arsenal, Man City, or even Liverpool in terms of how we pass the ball and move it around. But it's getting there game by game, and it's such games that actually make the difference, because it's these ones you have to squeeze out that actually make most of the difference at the end of the season. So I'm pretty happy for where it is. I'm not getting carried away. I'm just hoping top 4, will be a great place to end this season.
Brilliant, Simon. We all know what happened to Arsenal when they faced Man United. Do you concur with Derek here? Of course, quoting "trust the process," which I don't think would have ever imagined would hear Man United fans talking about trust the process. Ronaldo is rubbish, and building out from the back. All those you never put in the same sentence while describing Man United, but it is what it is, as Mikel Arteta says. Simon, your take on Manchester United? Have they impressed you?
First of all, I'm happy that we lost to United because I feel like they've been like how should I call it, a jinx. Each time we win against United, we drop points. Last season was one of it. We lost the next 3 games: Southampton, Brighton, then Crystal Palace. And then I think for Ronaldo's case, I think since we have a best time when he put in a transfer, then also the manager coming in tried to show him that I'm the boss. I think he felt betrayed. That's what has happened to his deep in form. Because last season he banged 16 goals plus. So there's no you can tell me it's the same player. He's getting old and all that. I think he's just betrayed. Just feels betrayed. That's why his form is a bit down. And I trust he still has a season or 2 in him. I feel like he can still do what Zlatan does, even much better. But the team is in. He feels betrayed, and the coach wants to prove a point. And the coach is building. He's trying to set up his own thing. So I'm thinking Ronaldo should leave United, and I'm actually scared about United. They win games you don't expect them to win, which is actually a very scary thing. They beat Southampton away. Okay, they survived, but they still won. You've been seeing they're actually hustling to get the win, but they do get the points, which is a bit scary. And they've beaten the top 6. Now in the top 6, they've so far won like 3-4 games. It's a bit worrying. It's a bit worrying. But I know a certain team is going to humble them, but I'm actually proud of them. Happy for them. I would love to see them in the top 4 by the end of the season for the Champions League sake.
Brian, do you agree or do you concur with that analysis from these 2 gentlemen about United? Very briefly, as someone who has a big stake there at breaking the record for the most titles won in the English Premier League.
Just by the way they have gradually, there's more grit in the team than there was in the past, as some sort of like some kind of like a method behind what I'm saying. So kudos to them. Of course, I would wish that we take the top 4 instead of them, but that's something that's at risk given the way we are playing.
It's not yet concluded.
Man, the way we are playing these days, you would get. But I don't know. I won't read the riot. I won't press the panic button yet. But Man U, yes, they know how to play those. Okay, of course, they used to do that last season or the previous season where they would play just badly and win. But here they're playing with a bit of stealth and focus, and I think their football is a little easier on the eye than the previous seasons, to be honest. So they're on the way up, having hired a few weird chaps like the Butcher of Ajax, come in to add some more fighting spirit in them and basically rally the troops from the back. Though of course the usual, what's his name, the French guy, Varane tends to have he sets up an itinerary for getting injured for the season. That could be a bit of a risk because I think I saw guys with should I say expressing out of despair when Maguire was playing in the previous game. But those are the 1 or 2 things, chinks in the armory about this Varane's availability. That may be a problem, but I think they're on the way up, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. Man United.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. And Pep Guardiola echoed the same, recently on that. He's seeing some positive signs at United, and I'm sure Derek will be excited about that. Speaking of on the way up, one team that's at the top of the table is Arsenal, and succeeding where Liverpool failed last week, thumping, well, quite resoundingly, thumping Nottingham Forest, but of course losing Bukayo Saka to injury as well. But fantastic game. This is the dynamic duo that keeps Arsenal ticking, I think, for me. And Simon, I'll want to hear your take first. Impressed with the result, expected, or can Arsenal keep up the pressure on Manchester City? I know City are second, but everyone knows that at one point, or feels at one point, especially with Haaland going to take 1 month's rest while the World Cup goes on, coming back fresh in December, they're going to be quite a force to reckon with in the second half of the season from December. But Simon's dropped off. Derek, your take on Arsenal.
No, I really think I think it was the best thing for you guys to give Arteta that time. He needed to build that. I just remember just last season, like you guys were clamoring for his head. Arteta is this, you want him to go and but I think he really needed to get
out.
Arteta out was everything and everywhere, but he needed to get rid of those huge, big-headed personalities that were not buying into what he wanted. And then when he had the team that he did, and I just feel like Guardiola just gave him the last few pieces to the puzzle in Jesus and Zinchenko, and then everything just started coming together. But in my opinion, my player of the season for you guys is Xhaka. I don't know what they're feeding him or what his wife is doing, but you guys need to figure it out and just keep it working, because that guy is playing some good football, man. He's he's pulling those strings together in such a seamless way, and he easily goes unnoticed because everyone's looking for the flair players, but he's actually the chink that's holding this whole team together. And Partey is getting injured, but the moment if this guy ever gets injured, then you guys will feel the pain, because he's the guy that's holding this whole team together, to be honest. And I think he's doing really a great job. I feel like Jesus needs to pick up sooner rather than later, because this loss to Saha. I mean, what's his name? Black little boy. Saka.
Saka.
Yeah.
Saka is. I think it's a big loss. I think we shouldn't get carried away by this Nielsen cameo. It's Nottingham Forest. Nielsen comes in. You have a good game where one side of the pitch is just sleeping and everything is going well. But I do not feel Nielsen is Saka, and I feel your next game may be a bit tougher without him, because he just brings a lot. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like there may be a false confidence that may have come from this win based on Nelson's performance, which I just feel was just one of those. Remember, we had this kid called Kiki Macheda, and he went 4 games scoring worldies, and you're like, oh my god. But
then they benched him for 4 years.
Exactly. So I just feel like this Nielsen thing really wasn't something to sing home about, but the loss of Saka is a big one. I really feel that's a really big loss. But I feel like Arsenal, they just have that belief. They have that belief, and it's just something that will be hard to break. But I feel like key players, like depending on how long this injury is, then if you get, let's say, another injury to like Odegaard, such key players, it will be really, really hard for you. But I feel you guys are in a sweet spot right now.
Interesting. Simon, I don't know if you can hear us. You're back. But,
yeah, Yeah, I can hear.
Derek doubting our ability, the ability of the Arsenal to bounce back from crucial injuries to the likes of Xhaka, Partey, Odegaard. He does make some sense to that. Does that reflect a rather inadequate strength in depth for the Arsenal?
Yeah, I would actually side with him on this. I do believe our squad is so thin. Looking at how many games we're having this season, October we had like 6 Premier League games, then we had like a couple of Europa games. So you're playing like how many games? Like about 3
Nine,
in a week.
actually. Nine the whole season. Yeah.
9
The
the
whole of
whole
October,
month.
sorry.
So it's a bit crazy. Then we're also going to have April that's going to have 6 Premier League games. It's a bit crazy. But to be honest, I've never been confident in Arsenal side like I am today. I'm one of the people who are interested in the process, but now I feel so confident. And then the most worrying thing that most teams are not seeing, remember the Liverpool team that won that COVID Premier League? They came on. They just kept on winning. By the time other teams are trying to catch up, they're already boosting confidence. They're already hyped up. You look at the defense. Van Dijk was very, very clinical. Like you look at the team and you be like, wow, where do I pass? Everyone just looked like a bloke. And in Arsenal, okay, we have some areas that are missing, but as an Arsenal fan who has been following up, I would say January will decide this for all of us, because I feel like we do need like about 3 signings, like how you just mentioned it, in case we lose Shaka at any one point. It's going to be a big miss. So I think January is going to decide our season. Then Gabriel Jesus needs to pick up. He's actually doing so well, but he fumbled against Nottingham Forest, but he would have had like 3 goals to his name. So I'm looking at this season. I'm very confident. I believe that if we keep up with the pace, we're going to win this. And I'm very sure by end of Christmas or end of New Year, we shall be number 1.
Interesting. I'll pull in Brian here. Do you agree with that assessment? I mean, Arsenal looking quite sharp at the moment, but featherlight, if you ask me, especially from the midfield going up. I think they're quite solid at the back, even with regards to strength in depth. But moving forward, where do you see Arsenal finishing realistically this season?
Top 3, maybe even could be second, because the way the chasing pack are playing. Because now, for instance, of the top of the chasing pack, there is the wild horse in Newcastle, which I don't know. It may remember that it's Newcastle and fail to say, if we are being too ambitious, let's tone down. So, but I think among the chasing pack, the only biggest threat is probably Man U and Liverpool. Man U because of their current different look, and Liverpool because of they have been down this road several times, right? Conte tends to be like waiting for one match before he explodes. So I don't know how it's going to play out. But no, I think Arsenal on based on form are actually really neck and neck with Man City in terms of how they're going through with all this, how they're going about their game. Whether they're going to make a game out of this with Man City is something which is a very tough ask, but I think I see them being second because, they talk about the squad's depth. But you will say about this, but let's just remove De Bruyne from the starting lineup of Man City, and we'll see where those assists will come from, right? You could see how they struggled against West Ham. Which team are they playing? Over the weekend?
This last weekend, they played.
They played Leicester.
They
played. Oh, the game they played over the weekend where they won by one goal to nil. It was not that
against the brand Leicester City. It was Leicester City.
It was not that. Yeah, it wasn't that easy. So you talk about squad depth, and now you talk about Xhaka, but. Okay, you take out De Bruyne, and then you'll see how they won't. It won't be an obvious thing. So sometimes we talk about the word squad depth is used a bit loosely. yes, I know Man City has more options than others, but I can tell you, if you put off any two of their top players, they won't say there's a chance they can have a problem being first, winning the trophy. So I think it's something we need to look out for. I mean, sometimes a team's fortune, its capacity to win is based on how many injuries that it racks up in the season. Yeah. The time when we won, I think we won by 20 points ahead of Man City. We didn't have any such injuries. Yeah. As Liverpool, right? There are very few teams that really, you blink with injuries, you lose space. It's just, I can attest to that. It's very,
and especially to key players.
Yes, it can happen to any team. Yeah.
Brilliant. Moving on, of course, to that game, Brian, that you just mentioned, you highlighted. You give us a bit of analysis there about Man City and their struggles against Leicester City.
I kind of need to. Sorry, I need to jump off. There's something I just need to send.
No worries, man.
I'm still gonna be coming to. Thanks for having me, man.
Brilliant, man. Thanks for joining. Cheers. Bye. And Brian, and as we actually also need to wrap up to catch the Champions League action, so we'll rush it. We'll definitely be rushing this one. Fantastic goal for Man City. You did highlight how they struggled. De Bruyne putting in 1-0 for Leicester City, for Manchester City against Leicester. And struggling, it looks like, without Haaland, despite having the other attacking players on the pitch. Was that a temporary blip, or do you see them being found out, in their next game?
They could. Well, you see, I think, Haaland is likely to be back in the next game. So I think, usually these strikers go through...
Against Fulham. They're playing with Fulham.
Fulham is a bit of an unpredictable entity. Are they playing Fulham away or at home?
At home.
They won't beat those ones.
They won't
beat those ones. But I was saying, look, strikers especially, now that's why you have to respect Salah. He has done, this season is a bit tricky for him, but he has scored almost 20 goals every season since he joined Liverpool. So usually players tend to click a striker after some time. So Haaland may have a purple patch this season, maybe next season, but eventually, as things go with the Premiership, guys read you after some time, and he stopped having as many goals as he used to. So right now, Haaland is a person who can't click him. His movement for a person that big is phenomenal, and his strength. He has basically the makings of a super striker. Yeah, but I know that they are leaning on him is that we see they begin to rely on him more, just like Liverpool relying on Salah, right? The moment he has any issue in terms of injuries, they may have a few problems managing that, as they would have last season. Because last season they had Jesus and these other players, and they had this kind of like saying, okay, let the goals come from elsewhere, 5 from 10 from this guy. Right now, there's this one guy who scored, I think, more or less half of their goals. So it's an dependency kind of, not a typical Pep kind of thing. He tried it with Ibrahimovic, and it was a disaster. But it seems he has learned his. So I see if he stays uninjured, definitely I see definitely they have an edge over Arsenal.
Brilliant. And moving finally to the last game, Spurs winning 3-2 against Bournemouth, coming from 2-0 down to take on Bournemouth. And when, like you said, you mentioned you're not sure when Antonio Conte will click. Was this one of the games when he starts to basically click and get Spurs running?
It seemed like that, but I think sometimes Conte is his own enemy, his worst enemy. So sometimes he tends to implode. So when things are not going well, he said so many things about the owners, about his players. So he was almost going to lose 3 games on the trot in the EPL if his thing had fallen off through the cracks. Yeah, so he has bought some players. He can't say he hasn't bought any players. They've given him some money in the kitty. So there's just something about unseemly about Spurs. I think somehow they tend to have problems against the bigger teams or the teams that like to play attack them. They have problems. They don't have quick answers to those ones. So I think that's something which is of a bit of an unknown for Conte. He may not have resources that will help him turn around because he's dealt with the team. He's pretty much rebuilding a team in terms of attitude. Not just so much about players in terms of attitude. They have been used to being second best, knowing well this time of the season they only settle for top 4, things like that, or even slide out of that. So he has to. Usually, his success is built on good teams. The Chelsea that took the title some seasons back he already had won like a season before that one with Mourinho, right? Inter had a bit of a history winning, so he tends to work.
He had a poor first season.
Yeah,
but after that, he got them going.
He's more similar to Mourinho than he would want to think in terms of how he went. Yeah, he wants things working well. So these guys he didn't build from the scratch. He wants something that is sort of like near to a Ferrari, so that he can polish it and it moves. And that's what he's trying to do with Spurs, a team which has not won a major trophy in 50, 60 years. So that's a bit of a hard one.
Indeed. Yeah. Thank you so much, Brian. And with that, we're going to bring this episode of The Locker Room right to an end. Viewers, if you're just joining us, feel free to hit the subscribe button, play back, enjoy the content, and we'll definitely be back next week, same time, same place. Brian, you have a great week and all the best in the Champions League. Of course, we want to see the English teams do well in the Champions League, but we would also welcome you to the Europa League because it's getting feisty in the Europa League. We'll wait and see. Have a fantastic rest of the week and take care.
Thanks. Take care.
Bukayo Saka, Anthony, Salah, beautiful from a There goes Haaland. He's on it.